Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 12 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are trying out another high-ranking team from Salt Lake City Regionals. This is the team that finished in the top 4 of that tournament, built and piloted by a player called Alex, who I've linked down in the description below. Alex was one of the few high-ranking Palkia players from that tournament, and Palkia is definitely one of the restricteds that I haven't covered as much on the channel yet, so excited to dive into this team. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps linked in the description below, and thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoy, please share support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. In addition, I just want to shout out Alex, first of all, for, sending this team in and for, giving me the ability to try it out. And I also want to give him a shout out because he got top 4 not only at this regionals, but also at Collinsville Regionals, which was the last regionals in 2020 before everything shut down. So getting, back-to-back really good performances like that is incredibly difficult. And so, yeah, congrats to him. It's definitely an impressive run of regionals. And so, yeah, let's talk about the team. Palkia is a really interesting restricted Pokemon because it actually has a pretty favorable matchup into a lot of the things in the format, especially things like Kyogre, Groudon, and even Zacian, although against Zacian you obviously have to worry about like Play Rough coming out from it. But, weather is so common right now, and Palkia has a pretty favorable matchup into both Kyogre and Groudon. It's an incredibly strong Dynamax option, but it's also pretty strong outside of Dynamax because Spatial Rend, Hydro Pump, and Earth Power are just pretty good moves. And yeah, so overall, like, it is just one of the hardest hitting restricteds in the format, especially when Dynamax. And you can one-shot so many different Pokemon thanks to your type coverage. With this team, actually, Palkia is almost always the max option. There really isn't a great secondary max option, and normally I'd be a little bit wary of that, but on this team it makes a lot of sense because Porygon, Amoonguss, Entei, and Incineroar are just all such good supportive Pokemon. What's interesting about this team is that you've got Palkia and Zacian, which are pretty fast restricted Pokemon, but then you've got really slow Pokemon like Porygon, Amoonguss, and Entei, right? And so, like, Porygon here is on the team because, 1, it can Trick Room, but 2, it also has Foul Play and Eerie Impulse. This set is just really good in a restricted format, in my opinion, because Foul Play, does so much damage into things like Groudon, Calyrex, for example, Calyrex-S and Calyrex Shadow, and then Eerie Impulse is really valuable in shutting down things like Kyogre and just any special attacker, right? So Porygon's already really difficult to knock out. You add Intimidate support from Incin, you add in the Redirection from Entei and Amoonguss, and it's even tougher to deal with. And so the idea here is that you don't always need to set up Trick Room with this team, but I've had many games where I lead a little bit more passively early on, like Porygon, Amoonguss, Incin, Porygon, set up Trick Room, disrupt my opponent with Foul Play and Eerie Impulse and Parting Shot, and then after I stalled out their Dynamax, then Dynamax Palkia and try to sweep from there. Right, like, you're almost always bringing both Palkia and Zacian, other than for, really niche matchups. And so it's all about positioning those properly. So one way you could play is just go aggressively right from the beginning of the game, lead Palkia and just, Dynamax on turn 1 and try to get 3 big moves off in the first 3 turns of the game. Or you could play a little bit more passively. I've really preferred leads like Porygon and Amoonguss, where I, to get up Trick Room, spread a bunch of Spores, try to stall out their Dynamax, and then really sweep with Palkia in the late game. So, just some food for thought there. The Incineroar here also has safety goggles, so that helps out against opposing Amoongusses. And the Amoonguss here actually has Mental Herb. That Mental Herb is a really big deal because right now a lot of people, their one way of shutting down Amoonguss is taunt from something like a Whimsicott or a Tornadus or an Incineroar. So Mental Herb ignores the taunt and then is able to put something to sleep after the taunt as well, rendering a Pokemon completely useless. And so I think Mental Herb is kind of an underrated item on Amoonguss at the moment, so really glad to see a good team, featuring it. Entei here, it Focus Sash with Helping Hand, and so if you want to play a little bit more fast paced, you could just lead Entei Palkia and just go for Helping Hand plus Max Move immediately on turn 1, or similarly, same concept with Entei and Zacian. So I think, yeah, none of the Pokemon here are anything too surprising, but it is interesting to me that, you have these 2 fast restricteds, but then you're using it with a relatively slow core, and while that normally might not make, great intuitive sense, I think in the context of this team, it makes a ton of sense just because there's so much bulk on all of these supportive Pokemon. So, yeah. Really excited to try it out. Question of the day, with Porygon 2 and Dusclops coming back into the format and being more prevalent, I want to know if you could turn any Pokemon that currently is non-fully evolved and make it a viable Eviolite user, what would you do, whether it be in terms of stats or move pool? So let me know in the comment section below, and let's get started. First game of the day, and this feels like a team that you would have seen in VGC 2019. Reminds me of James Beck's team with Tornadus, Xerneas, Kyogre, and Kartana. James was really such a phenomenal master of that archetype, especially in 2019. So, okay. What do we got here? Palkia is actually kind of scary with the, I should say I'm scared of the Xerneas from there and with Palkia. which is interesting. Amoonguss is Mental Herb here, which could be really valuable. Like, I value setting up Trick Room here with Porygon. Yeah, especially because we have Eerie Impulse, so that, like, puts a stop to Xerneas as well. Porygon plus... I think I just want Porygon, Inity, Palkia, Zacian. The question is in what order. Okay. You know what? I'm down for a Porygon Palkia lead with Incin and Zacian. Like, Palkia doesn't love going up against Xerneas, but Xerneas on the first turn isn't that scary pre-Geomancy. And if you Geomancy, you know, I can just Trick Room and then Eerie Impulse you. So, yeah, Palkia here definitely packs a punch, but really cool team. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Xerneas Kyogre in a very long time. They're going to go with Weavile plus Kyogre, so... Turn was a little bit awkward for Porygon, but Palkia's in a really good spot where I can just Dynamax it. You would think if you're my opponent, you just fake out Porygon and then go for like a Water Spout, so I can just pivot Porygon out immediately. It might actually even be worth sacrificing the Incineroar here to get a free switch in back into Porygon. Because what I can do right now is bring in Incin. Also, I guess the other interesting question is why I brought Incin in the first place. It was mainly for Kartana, because otherwise I think Kartana could put in a little bit too much work, and that makes me nervous. But I'm thinking Protect, Dynamax, and just go for a Max Worm win here onto the Kyogre. I guess there's a small chance Kyogre switches out into Xerneas, but then if you do that, I can just click Fake Out and they're staying in, given that Porygon switched us out first. Cool. Sacking Incin for a lot of free damage on a Kyogre and then like pressuring either a free switch into Zacian or going back into Porygon and pressuring Trick Room, I think both are decent for me here. I'm really curious about the item on Kyogre. But it's nice to be using Palkia here. We haven't actually really featured Palkia too much, despite it always being, I think, a strong pick in Series 12. And I think, yeah, we've seen some really strong Palkia teams throughout the last couple of weeks. Okay, they just go for Spout. No Fake Out from Weavile, so maybe it has something like a Taunt. It's Choice Scarf Kyogre, though, so that's good to confirm. Yep. Cool. That's not a bad turn one, just because Wormwind here does so much damage and puts Scarf Kyogre in a really awkward spot. Like, I don't get a KO, but that's honestly fine. I don't necessarily need one. Xerneas is going to be in the back. Kartana's a possibility. I got an Intimidate onto Weavile, so free switch it into Zacian. Yep. Okay. I mean, Weavile's damage output here is really not relevant either way, and so Kyogre here is essentially forced to switch out or sacrifice itself. So that's one thing to consider. Yeah, you have basically no damage from Weavile right now. If I were to, like, what would I want to go for here? I can see Xerneas switching in. Geyser into Kyogre just obliterates it. I mean, I should double up here, right? Because Weavile really isn't relevant for my opponent. So, like, I'm down to just Behemoth Blade, Kyogre, and Geyser it. This will absolutely demolish anything coming in. So if I were them, I'd actually probably just sack Kyogre, which they do. Smart. To which then I could have actually targeted around the Kyogre and left it out on the field. Okay, they go for a taunt onto Zacian, which is fine by me. And I'm assuming Weavile is going to be Focus Sashed here, which is also okay. I mean, this is the issue with Xerneas, unfortunately, in the format. Like, it's just so weak into Zacian that even if you manage to set it up in the late game, it's still kind of tricky. So, we'll pick up a double KO here. This last turn was a good call by my opponent, by the way. Oh, it's not Sash Weavile. That is interesting. That actually does benefit my opponent, though, because it does give them 2 free switch-ins. But the thing is, you're staring down a +1 Zacian and a Palkia in Rain with Life Orb. And this thing just hits so hard. And one of your Pokemon is Xerneas, yeah. That's the last one. Okay, I mean, you have Regieleki, so you can Dynamax the Eleki potentially on me. And Max Lightning. You could also, like, Electro Web and just attack with Xern. Play I lean towards is switching out into Porygon. And Max Quaking into Regieleki. You should Max Xerneas. I mean, if I were my opponent, I would Max Xerneas and try to KO the Zacian. I guess the other question is whether or not a Max Lightning would have one-shot me. You could, however, like I mentioned, Max Xerneas and then Electro Web into Starfall, but I actually don't think that's as strong of a play, because then you just get wrecked by... Yeah, and they Max Xerneas. You just get wrecked by the Zacian. You could also double up on Palkia here. I guess the other question is whether or not I could survive a Moonblast pre-Geomancy. There's Lightning. Yep. Into Porygon. Good. Phew. It's a lot of damage. But if like, Xerneas is not sashed here, we would just win the game. That felt like Life Orb to me. Oh, it's not. Uh-oh. That could be a little scary. Okay, you're not sashed. Good. So maybe it was Magnet then on Xerneas. With that, then, I don't think there's really comeback potential. Well, I guess I should never underestimate Xerneas here into Zacian, but I don't think a +2 Moonblast would KO me. I'm sure they're Geomancing here, right? Yeah. Okay. I think the main issue here for my opponent is that they only have really, like, one good max option, and awkwardly enough, neither of their restricteds are Pokemon that they actually want to Dynamax. Right? And so that actually kind of limits you. Whereas, like, because it basically means that you're not, I want to say forced to Dynamax the Xerneas, but it does feel fairly predictable Xerneas is going to be the max option, right? And so part of what makes Pokemon in this format a little bit harder is if you don't know who's guaranteed to Dynamax. Now, I thought about the option of and actually, like, Torn and Kartana are both good max options for them, but they opted not to go with either. So, +1 special defense. You're at +2. I could actually maybe survive a Dazzling Gleam here, but I'm down to just Protect and Eerie Impulse. Because if I get an Eerie Impulse off, then it guarantees us the win. There's no way a crit Moonblast would KO. I could see them going for Moonblast on a Porygon, but that's honestly fine. Yeah, they Gleam. I honestly think we might survive this with the special defense boost, but let's see. How bulky are you, Porygon? Nice. Sweet. That wins us the game. Very cool. I gotta give my opponent props, though. It's not easy using Xerneas in this format, but it is a fun Pokemon. We actually tried it on Ryoto Otsubo's team recently. Yeah, now I just wait for... I guess I could have just clicked Trick Room instead, but I don't think either makes a difference, because as soon as I get that Eerie Impulse off, then Zacian just hard wins me the game, right? Because it takes away the win con of, like, a crit Moonblast at +2. So, really interesting team there, but ultimately, yeah, we were able to take advantage of the fact that neither Kyogre nor Xerneas were great max options for them. I'm curious about their team. So, Sash Kartana. That's where the Sash was. Okay. We knew Kyogre was Choice Scarf there. Power of Xerneas. No surprise. Modest max speed. X for Bout Weavile. Weavile, by the way, really takes me back to Santino Tarquinio's team from the Players' Cup 25th Invitational with the wide lens. That was so cool. Mental Herb Tornadus. Magnet Xerneas. Okay, so yeah, it was coming from Thunder, and it had Magnet, hence the increase in damage output, but this not being Sash kind of saved me in the end. So it's interesting, because their team has, like, Sash Kartana, Kyogre, Xerneas, like, Weavile is a Pokemon that likes to run Focus Sash, Tornadus likes to run Focus Sash, Regieleki likes to run Focus Sash, but you can only run one Sash on the team, right? Sash is just such a good item in the format, so yeah, let's keep things going. Next match here, and we've got Solgaleo plus Calyrex Shadow Rider. I actually played against this opponent when I was practicing with some other team. I think it was my Groudon Solgaleo team. And what do they lead against me? They led Tornadus Solgaleo, and they had Rain Dance on Tornadus, which really caught me off guard. Because I led with Whimsicott plus Charizard. So Palkia is okay here. I mean, Solgaleo is the main problem, right? Especially with Bulldoze support from Calyrex. Ooh, that's where Foul Play from Porygon's really good, though, I think. Yeah, I'm down for a Porygon Indeedee lead. Also, I could just go Porygon Amoonguss, especially with Mental Herb. Yeah, that's interesting. Palkia Zacian in the back. Okay, I think I'm down for that. Instant is interesting as a consideration here. It's quite good into offensively into Solgaleo and Calyrex, but it also can just get wrecked against Solgaleo. So, and I can't intimidate, the Solgaleo, and Instant's really not great without Sugar Berry against it, especially in the early game. So it's Grimmsnarl on Thundurus, okay. This makes me think it's offensive Thundurus. Like the play I want to go for turn 1 is just protect with Amoonguss and Trick Room, honestly. Because we could just start sporing everything, especially with Mental Herb. So I'm mainly curious if it's offensive or defensive Thundurus here, because it totally could be Goggles Thundurus with Taunt. That would cause me some problems. But if that were the case, then I would just spore the Grimmsnarl, start foul playing onto Thundurus. Actually switch Thundy out, okay. Into Instant, so they dropped one of their restricteds. That's already pretty interesting. Given that switch, I wonder if it's Goggles Instant as well. Okay. It's a little bit awkward because like Trick Room doesn't necessarily benefit Palkia that much, and okay, that explains it. They've got Taunt on the Grimmsnarl. So I get Trick Room up successfully. I'm not really pressuring with too much this next turn though. Man, setting up that Trick Room actually puts me in a pretty awkward position, which is funny to say. I'm down to foul play and Spore Grim. Because I've got the Mental Herb, like maybe they fake out into the Amoonguss, but yeah, they choose not to, so that's great. I think Mental Herb Amoonguss is so smart right now. Like, I feel like just people don't have very good solutions into it. I know every time I play against Amoonguss, I'm like, oh, if this is Mental Herb, I am in trouble. Okay, so we get a little bit of chip damage. That's such a small amount. And they Snarl. Okay, works for me. Cool. I mean, the only problem right now is just I'm not doing damage, right? And so I probably want to bring in the Palkia, and it's actually interesting, like, bringing it out, but then not Dynamaxing it. So I'm going to bring it out and click Spore into Instant now. Like, I knew my opponent's team already didn't have great anti-Amoonguss answers, and we're able to just leverage that to the maximum here. I'm just curious if it's Goggles Instant. Like, would you really need to switch there if you had already had Taunt on Grim? I'd be kind of surprised if they're Goggles here, but we'll see. Even if they do, it's fine. They don't, yeah. Looks like their main solution into Amoonguss was going to be the Grimmsnarl here with Taunt, but they don't have much to stop me right now, which is excellent. Okay. I'm down to Dynamax here, go for the Geyser onto Grimmsnarl, and then just go for a Rage Powder right now. Like, Amoonguss is in such a good spot. And this game was me taking advantage of the fact that Amoonguss is just a really good Pokemon, especially when you don't have consistent answers into it, right? So, Instant switches out into Solgaleo, okay. Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the reason I wanted to snipe down Grimmsnarl here is because I just don't know the rest of its moves right now. Now, we'll say dealing damage into Solgaleo might actually be a little bit difficult, but, you know, I can just keep sporing right now, which is good. Setting up Geyser, or using Geyser sets up the rain, so I do more damage with Geysers across the board. Although, if I had targeted the Instant slot this turn, it feels like Solgaleo doesn't faint there, but then it's like, what do you max at this point? Palkia just cleans up against everything. So, Grim does stay asleep. Okay. Nice. So, Life Orb Max Geyser. Let's see if this is enough to one-shot Grimmsnarl. Beautiful. This was such an interesting one, right? Because, like, Palkia and Zacian normally aren't Pokemon that you expect to actually, like, come out during Trick Room, but in the context of this matchup, it made a lot of sense. So now they can bring out the... I don't think you'd bring out Instant, honestly. They do. Interesting. You could gamble it here and just go for a Hope Let You Wake Up and just fake out into Amoonguss. I could just switch Amoonguss out, right? Last turn of Trick Room here. The thing is, Instant doesn't even threaten me, so I'd rather just Geyser into Solgaleo here and Spore into it. I guess you could max guard Solgaleo or just protect it. Okay, they go for protect. That's a good play. fine by me, though. Yeah, they have not had very good luck with sleep turns, unfortunately, either. So this is interesting. Now, Trick Room ends. Geyser through Protect should still do like 25-ish or so. Even more, actually. That's really good damage. Yeah, that's excellent damage, honestly. Okay. So I can actually just Geyser into Incin now. Guarantee the knockout onto that, and then just Spore into Solgaleo. I'm down for that. I guess you could be Sash Incin or Pasho, but... Solgaleo here could max Lightning to set up Electric Terrain, preventing me from putting something to sleep, or it could go for a max Psychic if you have that onto Amoonguss. Now, the other thing to note is like questioning the set on Thundurus on my opponent's end at this point, because I don't think it's a Dynamax variant, so it could be Brutal Swing, for example. Ooh, we're faster with Palkia against Solgaleo. Okay, that's good to know. Although I should have known that based off Palkia's speed. Yeah. I just want to confirm our speed here. Just because I've played with so many different Palkia sets at this point. Like, I've played with max special attack, max speed. I've played with, like, no speed versions. And they actually just Quake into Amoonguss, which is, unfortunately, not really going to help them out here. So I wonder if they didn't have Lightning and max Psychic, because both are pretty good options. But you could run Rockfall, Steel Spike, Quake, Protect. This game was probably the best demonstration I could have for why you would want to use Mental Herb on Amoonguss. Like, the Mental Herb alone just won us the game, I would say. So, Dynamax ends here. Just double checking Palkia's speed. Yeah, it is modest max. Okay. Now what do I want to do? Just go for a Rage Powder into Spatial Rend. Porygon's also so good here because of Foul Play, so not much my opponent can really do. But yeah, like I think the Mentor on Amoonguss is just too powerful, and so that's why like playing against Amoonguss can be a nightmare, because it's like you want to assume it has Focus Sash, you want to assume it has Mentor, you want to assume it has Koba Berry, you want to assume it has Aka Berry, right? And so it's like tough to cover for all of those possibilities. But in this game, like I figured, there wasn't much my opponent could do to stop Amoonguss, like other than maybe a max move immediately. Calyrex didn't come out, which was really interesting. I didn't think they'd actually drop the Calyrex here, but makes sense if you don't think it's going to do that much damage and you would prefer support. Although in the grand scheme of things, like Thundurus is actually relatively useless for them, so Calyrex over Thundurus could pose some problems, because then you can like activate the policy on your Solgaleo and then do more damage, and then a +2 max Steel Spike with a little bit of chip from Bulldoze might be able to KO the Amoonguss there. So it benefited us that they didn't, have both restricteds here. So yeah, let's look for another Solgaleo team here. I'm glad to see Solgaleo usage rise up. I think people are finally realizing that it's kind of slept on as a restricted. So this one's got Kyogre, Solgaleo, Entei, Rillaboom, Grimmsnarl, and Zapdos. So your ways of activating policy on Solgaleo would be Bulldoze or Sucker Punch, but there's also a chance it's Assault Vest on the Solgaleo. Palkia is excellent here. Porygon with the Eerie Impulse and Foul Play I feel like is a must bring here as well. So I think it's going to be Porygon, Indy, Palkia, Zacian. Actually, what's with the focus on Indy? Why not just Amoonguss, no? Okay. I'm not opposed to a Porygon Amoonguss lead with Zacian and Palkia again. That's how I approached the previous game. This one's a little bit tougher because there's a lot of anti-Amoonguss with max Airstream from Zapdos. I guess that's the main one. Yeah. And there's an Entei on the team as well, which can Sacred Fire me. It's awesome to see so many different Solgaleo teams, though. A lot of different support. That's Entei and Solg. I mean, honestly, here I could just go for a Rage Powder into a Trick Room. Or just... I mean, what's stopping me from Protect Trick Room turn 1? Not much. I don't think a +2 Steel Spike KOs Porygon. If it does, though, then it's a major misplay on my end. But you know, I'm not super hyper focused or aware of Porygon 2 versus Dynamax Solgaleo with policy damage calcs. And if anything, with my experience with Solgaleo, I would not expect to get the knockout on a Porygon here. So, we'll see. I wouldn't also be surprised to see a Max Lightning from Solgaleo come out to set up terrain so that I can't Spore. The interesting thing, though, is if you activate your policy, I can Foul Play you and get a lot of damage onto you. Okay. There's our Protect. There's the Bulldoze. Yep. Okay. I don't think Porygon faints here, but if I'm proven wrong, then at least I faint to Solgaleo, which is, you know, one of my favorite restricteds as of right now. Yeah, there's Lightning. Smart play. That is honestly fine by me, though. I mean, obviously prevents me from Sporing with the Amoonguss, which does cause some pretty big issues, but I get Trick Room up. And here's the thing. Now I can just Foul Play your Solgaleo twice. So, like, here, it's pretty safe to just Rage Powder and Foul Play. I guess the only problem here is if, like, Steel Spike one-shots Amoonguss and then Sacred Fire crit or burns me, or just KOs me outright. I wouldn't expect it to, but that could be a scary problem for me. Yeah, that was a nice turn one by my opponent, though. That was a really safe option, right? Okay, Entei switches out into Kyogre. Okay. That works for me. Because with this now, man, my Zacian's actually pretty, I don't say useless, but it does not feel very strong here. Okay. Foul Play is going to do a ton here, but it's not the same type attack bonus, unfortunately. That's fantastic damage, though. Interesting. They max Quake, which will give them a special defense boost, but might not KO Amoonguss here. Yeah. Cool. I'll take that then. Now, this next turn is interesting because me clicking Foul Play into this is so obvious, so their play would be to just max guard. If I want to hard read into max guard, I could Energy Ball here and Eerie Impulse / Recover. I think I'd rather make the safe play, which is Rage Powder and Recover. Yeah. Okay, they didn't max guard. But I'm fine with this, right? Because I get to heal up. Kyogre can be faster than Solgaleo here under Trick Room, so then you would get an Ice Beam off, but then it would only be a plus. Like, Porygon should survive whatever attack you're launching. Oh my gosh, it's Calm Mind as well. Huh, okay. I actually tested Calm Mind Kyogre a lot before Salt Lake Regionals, but it wasn't consistent enough for me, especially because of its reliance on Origin Pulse. Cool, I'll take that turn. That's not bad at all. And Calm Mind's not that scary because I've got Eerie Impulse on this Porygon, so I can just shut you down pretty quickly on. Okay, now we bring in Palkia. So we gotta heal up. We can Foul Play to still KO Solgaleo. We can Max Quick to increase my own special defense right now. Plus, there's still one more turn to Trick Room after this turn. Okay, so I'm down to Dynamax, Quake, and Foul Play here. I should survive a +1 Origin Pulse in Rain. I just don't want to let Solgaleo at +2 get another attack off, and then I can Eerie Impulse the Kyogre slot next turn. And then the Quake special defense boosts are valuable here as well. I guess one thing I'm a little bit nervous about, though, is that they'll probably have Zacian in the back, right? And so with Zacian, +1 play rough into Palkia is not particularly fun to go up against. However, I've got my own Zacian, which benefits me. Cool, so they don't go for Protect on Solg. Nice. Yeah, I love this Foul Play Porygon 2 set, and as a Solgaleo player, it was a nightmare to go up against any Foul Plays. They Calm Mind again, okay. Calm Mind again is fine because I get a special defense boost. Now I can Eerie Impulse you this next turn. You have to bring out either Entei or Zacian, both which I outspeed with Palkia under Trick Room for a turn, so I can Geyser that slot safely. And I have Zacian in the back, so, you know, I have a way to just easily KO Kyogre with Play Rough later on, even with them having these special defense boosts. So that's not a problem. The main thing is right now we want to use Kyogre to attack everything around Kyogre. Sorry, we want to use Palkia to attack everything around Kyogre. They are leftovers, so yeah, that's the most common item on the Calm Mind sets. Cool stuff, though. I didn't see that coming. I think Calm Mind is still... Oh, wow. Rillaboom is their last one. Huh. Interesting, okay. I mean, I think that's a great thing for me. I'm shocked that... What? I said they had a Zacian in the back, but they had Solgaleo out on the field already. I'm just like, I played so many Kyogre Zacian teams that, like, I'm just so hardwired always expecting Zacian in the back, but that's kind of funny. It's late here today. Okay. Does mean I might struggle to get an Eerie Impulse off right now, which I don't love. I mean, I'm down a Wormwing here into the Rillaboom slot. And I don't think I'll get the Eerie Impulse off. I think they will just Fake Out plus Origin Pulse here. But let's see. I really don't mind that, honestly. Cool, they don't protect Kyogre. Okay, so now you're really just not doing any damage to me. Great. That's where that special defense boost earlier was so big. And now the thing is I also... Okay, they go for Scald. That's one way to get around potential misses with Origin Pulse. I was talking about how I don't like Calm Mind Kyogre because of its reliance on Origin Pulse, but you could just run Scald. Given that they're Protect, I think I can actually just Geyser into... never mind. I was going to say Geyser into Rillaboom, but I think a Life Orb Wormwing would just KO Entei on the switch in anyway. Yeah. I'm so hardwired to always expecting a Zacian in the back. That's so funny. I was like, oh yeah, they'll just bring in Zacian in +1 player off me. But they can't have 3 restricteds. Unless they had a Ditto. Okay. So I have one more turn of Max here, which is excellent. I am just going to Wormwind here into the Rillaboom slot and go for a Recover here with Porygon. Okay, they Grassy Glide. Yeah, I mean... This is the beautiful thing, right? Porygon's just soaking up all of this damage. My opponent is just launching so many attacks into it, and I can just ignore all of it and then heal it all the way back up, which is so, so sweet right now. Okay. Bye-bye Rillaboom. I would imagine a Scald. Yep. Beautiful. Yeah, like this, the Porygon was the MVP of this game. So I'm really glad to feature how good Amoonguss and Porygon can be with this team. Like, these aren't Pokemon that are, you know, new to this format or any format. In fact, they've been good in so many different years of VGC. But I think they work so well on this team. And if you look at it on paper, it seems like, you know, it's a little bit confusing because it's like, oh, you know, you're using Palkia and Zacian. These are pretty fast restricted Pokemon. Like, doesn't Calyrex Ice Rider make more sense? But the nice thing is that, like, the Porygon Amoonguss Palkia core is so disruptive early game. Like, I haven't even brought out my Zacian yet, right? But as soon as that comes out, it just completely closes out the game for us. So I'm just going to Hydro... Oh, actually, I'd rather Earth Power here. I don't want to risk missing, I think. Earth Power and a Foul Play double up onto Entei, I think. Should be fine. Cool. Nice Snarl. Yeah, I mean, like, their core is really weak into Palkia right now. So we've managed to, you know, conserve this win condition really well. And since I'm ahead in terms of Pokemon and damage, I'm not going to risk going for attacks that can miss right now. It's tempting to go for Hydro Pump there, but, like, I'm not taking any damage from my opponent here anyway. Yeah, you can Calm Mind all you want, right? But the thing is, all it takes is one Eerie Impulse to negate 2 Calm Mind boosts, and I have Zacian just waiting in the back anyway. So, I don't know if Foul Play will actually get the knockout here. Yeah, it does fall short. Foul Play is good on Porygon, but it's like, same type of attack bonus Foul Play is so nice, and so when you've seen that damage before from things like Yveltal or Liepard, you kind of feel like you've been spoiled. So, gonna Earth Power here, just Eerie Impulse. I mean, Porygon was just absolutely the MVP in this one, right? Like, it was able to handle my opponent's restricted Pokemon in Solgaleo and make sure that Weakness Policy Solgaleo couldn't do too much. Palkia was obviously really good as well, so not to discredit Palkia, because that was the main damage dealer, but Porygon just caused so much disruption for my opponent. Okay, and they go for another Scald. 116 down to 70, so it did 46 damage. And them setting up grassy terrain only helps me right now, because I heal up with Porygon consistently, so tough spot for my opponent to be in. All we have to do right now is just wait for his free switch and into the Zacian, so I could switch out, but there's really no need. Actually, I say a free switch in, but it's not that easy because they're not like knocking out either of my Pokemon anytime soon. But I really don't want to risk switching in Zacian and getting crit by it. Recover is always more optimal here. Okay, they just end up forfeiting, yeah. There's no way for them to win that one. It would just be kind of a long and drawn out ending because I don't want to risk switching in Zacian. So what I would do is basically keep going for Recover / Eerie Impulse on Porygon, keep clicking Spatial Rend. Spatial Rend also has a higher crit chance, so all we need is like one single crit and, you know, it would just demolish the Kyogre there. But basically, I don't want to risk switching in Zacian getting crit or burnt by Scald, and so I'm just going to keep whittling away at that, you know, at them. And Kyogre there doesn't have consistent recovery. It does have leftovers, but that's basically it. So Spatial Round at some point is bound to crit. Eerie Impulse just makes it so that Kyogre does no damage. And at some point, maybe you get a knockout onto one of my two Pokemon, but then at that point, Kyogre will have been chipped away enough where Zacian will just guarantee the game. So you could accelerate the pace of that, but I feel no need to play impatiently in that end game since I knew it was basically secured as long as I didn't carelessly switch in Zacian. So yeah. Anyway, that was kind of funny because I was just thinking, oh, they're going to have a Zacian in the back. That's not good for me. But yeah, it's been a lot of games of Pokemon I played recently. So just so used to Zacian plus Kyogre. Anyway, though, that's going to be it for today's episode. So thank you so much as always for watching. Thank you to Alex once again for the team. Details are down in the description below, including Alex's Twitter, rental and paste, all down there as well. So don't forget to leave a like, answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.